A quick round of introductions, because we have a special guest with us today to give us a little presentation. And then we will roll into our meeting after that. I actually have here, let's see. I had a window here I was going to share with you, but now I can't find the share button. That was just a little bit of an outline for how today's going to go. But so if you guys don't mind, we'll go around the horn, and Rick Gibson is here with us today from Sustainability Partners Investment Advisors. And so Rick, we are the policy and funding group. And what our goal is that as our working groups start to develop their menu of options for the various sustainability initiatives that we would like to see in the state of Nevada, we as the policy group are working to not only help them develop policy, but we're also working to meet with our legislators and the state representatives and all of the stakeholders, so that when some of these initiatives either come forward or we're looking for sponsorship in the legislature, we're not coming in cold. So we already have those networks and relationships. And then another thing we've been doing is looking at identifying barriers and looking for opportunities, whether they be regulatory barriers, market barriers, those kind of things, and trying to identify those. And so that's kind of what we've been working on in a nutshell, and I'll touch on that a little bit later, but just so you kind of have a pulse on who you're speaking with. And I am Tina Mudd. I'm the chairperson, and I'm the environmental manager for Granite Construction Company. And Susan, do you want to go, and then we'll go with Kayla and the rest of the group?
Sure. I'm Susan Fisher. I'm Senior Vice President of Government Affairs with the law firm of McDonald Carano, and we play in a wide variety of areas of business, including cleaning, lots of permitting issues, and environmental sort of things.
Excellent.
And Susan is my co-chair, just so she, you know. And then I'm going to call you off, actually, off of my screen, just so that things go quickly. So let's go. Todd, would you like to introduce yourself, please? You're on mute.
Yeah, Todd Wilkie with the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. I'm the environmental program manager here.
Kayla?
Yes, my name is Kayla Alm. I'm the Sustainable Materials Management Coordinator with the Division of Environmental Protection. So myself, Bree, and Darren Winkleman are all on this call representing NDEP, and we're helping to support and move this partnership going forward. Thank you.
Brian Thornton. Oh, you're on mute, Brian.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Brian Thornton. I'm with Citizens Climate Lobby. We're a national organization working on national policy, but I'm also getting involved at the state level now too. So.
Lena?
Lina, is that what you meant?
Lina, I do it every time. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I wasn't sure if I heard it right. I'm Lina Tanner. I'm with Tanner Law and Strategy Group. I'm a former Senior Deputy Attorney General representing NDEP and former General Counsel for the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada. And I'm actually the person who's bringing sustainability partners into this meeting today. I've been working with Rick for about 4 years on this really cool form of financing for governmental entities, and I'm excited for his presentation. Thanks.
Thank you for bringing him to us. We're excited too. Chris Peterson?
Peterson, I'm the Director of Environmental Permitting for Comstock Mining.
Bree, are you on today? I think so.
Yeah, I'm with Kayla and Darren, working with NDEP, supporting you guys.
Jessica Preston.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jessica Preston. I'm the Environmental Manager for Public Services, Southern Nevada. Nice to be here.
Kathy?
Kathy Flanagan. I'm a Senior Public Affairs Analyst for the Southern Nevada Water Authority.
How about Doug?
Hi, I'm Doug Hamilton, Head of Policy for American Battery Technology Company, and we are currently building a recycling plant for lithium-ion batteries in the Nevada desert out in Fernley.
Awesome. Darren.
This is Darren with NDEP, and yeah, I'm looking forward to this presentation and everybody trying to get on the same page. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Chris, did I get you? Chris Lynch? I don't think I did.
Not yet. So
Okay.
Chris Lynch, I'm the director of the Business Environmental Program at University of Nevada, Reno.
Thank you, Chris. Brian Thornton, I got you, right? No?
Yeah, you got Brian.
Okay. We're getting to the bottom. So Suzanne with the City of Reno. Let's go to Wes. How about Wes?
Wait, no, Suzanne's here. Sorry, I'm having technical problems. I have a delay and my camera's not working, and I was gonna say it's a Monday, but it's not Monday.
It's sort of a Monday.
So sorry, Suzanne with the City of Reno. I'm the Sustainability Program Manager.
Great. Okay, Wes.
Rubio, Washoe County Health District. I supervise our waste management programs and our UST program and a few other ones that are involved in a lot of this process. So looking forward to hearing what we have.
Great. And Tom.
Hi, I have a new hat. I'm recently the Western States Director of Engagement for the Beneficial Electrification League, and I've had the opportunity of introducing Rick to a couple of state entities in New Mexico and Colorado, so delighted that Nevada's going to have the opportunity to learn about this great option. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you, Tom. Jessica.
Jessica Luns. I work at NDEP with Kayla, Bree, and Darren.
Great. Thank you, Jessica. Noah. I know you're here, Noah. You probably have us on mute.
Hey, everybody. Happy New Year to everyone here. Yeah, I'm Noah Rotroff. I'm on the board of our local Sierra Club, and always good to see you all. Happy New Year.
Great. And lastly, Marco.
Revelada City, Las Vegas.
Thank you. Is there anybody I missed? I think I got y'all. Okay, with that, Rick, if you would like to chat with us, and the floor is yours any way you want it to go.
Yeah, I will share my screen. I hope that I can just go do that.
I think you can.
Let me do that. And before I do that, though, one major comment is, oh my gosh, what a great group. I'm so serious. And Tina, anytime you want this group or one kind of like it, just give me a couple of minutes notice. It doesn't even have to be days. So let me try sharing my screen. And
while you share that, I'll tell you one of the things that we're so excited about with this group is just the diversity of the group. The backgrounds and knowledge that this group has is just fascinates me every day. So that's why we were so excited to hear what you had to say, because we've got a lot of diversity.
So let's see.
I will let you know when I can see your screen.
Okay. So there's my screen.
Let's see.
I guess if I
do not
minimize
see it.
Okay, let me do this back here. Share my screen.
Do you, Kayla, do one of you guys have to give permission? Because when I tried to share my screen earlier, it wasn't highlighted that I could. Are you having that problem, Rick?
Yeah, exactly. So what I think maybe I should do is just send it quickly to you and kind of, and then maybe you can do it from there. Is that okay?
We can certainly go that route. You should not have, we don't have any restrictions on these groups. Go ahead and email it to me. My email is Kilo Alpha Lima.
Wait one sec.
You know what? Rick, if you open it, do share your screen and see the tabs, entire screen window Chrome tab.
Okay, let's see, going here, share my screen. Oh,
And then if you
entire,
click on Chrome tab and hit life size and then hit share, I think it'll let you share.
oh, here, there we go. Is that showing up soon?
Let's see. Can anybody see it? Oh, shoot.
It seems to be
Nope.
showing his desktop at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, so now you got to go to share and pick your desktop, I think. Go to window. Yeah. Of course, these dang things.
Let's try this again. So I'm going to there. Do you see a bunch of?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
see a
now.
bunch of tiles.
How about?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yay!
Okay, so I'll start. Thank you so much, Tina. And what I'm going to do, I'll make this slide deck available to Tina, and then she can share it, or I can send it. But thank you, everyone. I'm Rick Gibson. I do work with Lina Tanner and Tom Polakowski, so credits to them. And I'm going to kind of go through the slides quickly. So that's one thing, just because that way I won't be reading the slides to you. I'll show you, I'll give you a comment, but I'm totally open to questions as they come up. And right now I'm seeing only my slides. So if you do have a question, just pipe up and interrupt me. I'm really good with that, or at least I think I am. So is everybody there? Are we all ready? Good. So
yes.
Let's go here. So I'm actually not in my right order, which is interesting. Hold on for one second. Okay, let's try this. Okay, well, let's try this. So very quickly, SP, as we call ourselves, we're investors in assets, but we go by the expression infrastructure as a service. So as intro, we all know there's a ton of deferred maintenance and facility issues, throughout the country, not just in Nevada. And as we see the problem, there's a big hunk of metal there. As we see the problem, it's been really hard for public institutions to keep up with deferred maintenance and to keep up with sustainability and to keep our energy efficient. All of this is a gigantic issue, and it's everywhere in the U.S., but certainly all around the world. So what is Sustainability Partners? Well, we invest in infrastructure, and we focus on public entities, notably municipalities, universities, schools, hospitals, ports, etc. And we provide a unique way of getting this. So we're not a lender, we're not an ESCO, we're not trying to sell a project. We're more very, very interested in supplying these projects, but we do it on a month-to-month basis, on a service basis. So we're not selling these projects to you. We're actually saying, if the capital budget isn't there, what we can do is provide exactly what you want on a month-to-month basis, as if we're kind of a utility for the equipment, like you have utilities for gas, water, and electric. We're kind of we supply this equipment on a utility basis. Wow, and you know what? I think sorry, let me just go fix this. Bear with me for a second. I'm not seeing everything, so Here we go. Okay, back to where we were. So infrastructure as a service, IaaS. Thanks for bearing with me. So what we do is we provide these projects on a non-debt basis. The customer does not need to pay capital for us all at once. We strive for the lowest cost of usage over time. So even compared to a bond, a lease, or a loan, we show every project open book so you can see the accounting of what you're paying for and what you're getting. You get the projects as you want them, you know, whether it be water or waste or infrastructure in a building. We run on a simple 10-page agreement, which, you know, when you compare that to a loan agreement, it's short. If you want to, you can always buy the projects out. And we don't take what the contractor costs are and mark them up with a big margin. We actually just get a small investor fee. And we fund fast. And we're your partner in making sure that these projects remain fresh and new forever. So again, I don't know if you'd like to see a comparison here, but the left-right, can everybody see that? The left-right comparison of sustainability partners versus a bond or a debt. Is that clear? Someone let me know. Good. So again, I won't read this to you, but you know, a month-to-month agreement versus long-term debt. We don't bill if it's not working. We replace stuff if it needs to be fixed, and we're there on a month-to-month basis for you. So again, and this may just be good for your reference later, but what we've done is we compare. You see the top line there. Compare sustainability partner to several other ways of getting sustainability projects funded in terms of versus P3 concessions, loan, lease down the left, bond and ESCO or shared savings. And we think in a lot of cases, you can see the top line, that there are advantages in terms of the term lease, whether it's usage-based, a simpler agreement, and basically the obligations that we can do a project with are less. We don't, if you cancel, there's no penalty, if there's no guarantees required. And again, I know I'm going through this quickly, but I'm going to send this to you on the actual PowerPoint. So here's just a simple process. We identify what you want to do. We look at the economics of it. We fund, and then we continuously monitor to make sure, again, whether it's water, waste, we even do vehicles. We do a whole range. I'll show you that in a further slide. But you basically then get a monthly bill for usage instead of having to pay a big, huge capital cost at the very beginning. So we have a simple agreement, and that's one of the hallmarks of what we do. Again, if you're going to do some form of borrowing or a bond, I'm sure most of you know those are huge contracts, hugely obligation. But we're also want to emphasize that our agreement is not debt per the GASB-FASB rules, the Financial Accounting Standards Board, and we can then run anyone through that, show them how we meet every requirement to not be debt. So basically, payments to us go on your P&L like an expense item. Really big difference between SP and almost every other thing. Mm-hmm. And these days, almost every other way of paying is some form of debt. So we stand alone in that. Oh, here, this is a good one. Maybe I'll dwell on this for 10 or 15 seconds. But here you can see the boxes from, I guess there are 15 of them. And you can see the various kinds of projects we do, all kinds of, from central plant to water systems, plumbing, irrigation. We do tons of water meters, and I'll mention this now. Sustainability Partners is now become one of the largest owners of water meters in the country. Now, why is that? Because most water meters are owned by a single city, right? You know, if it's Comstock or Neptune or any of those. With us, since we're actually buying and then providing these water meters to many cities, we actually end up being one of the largest provider through a service of water meters. And it's always a positive cash flow. So that's another subject to talk about. So
is for
go ahead.
for a public entity, so for instance, for a public entity, your service might be to change out these meters as they get old or maintain the life of them. That would be the service that you would be providing a public entity?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
for a public entity, let's say, and we've done them as small as some cities with 2,000 or 1,700 citizens. So they have water meters that are not digital, and that basically the actual measurement of the water, and I'm not a water meter expert, but I'll say I know this, the measurement of the water on the old water meters, which a lot of places still have, I mean, they're still rampant. They get old because they're mechanical and they read flow. With the new water meters, they're digital and they don't wear out. They're not mechanical. And with that means that the counting of the measurement of that water is accurate. And for several of our customers, we found that they actually are positive cash flow, counting what they're paying us per month. But so it ends up being a profitable project for us to swap out all the water meters. It's amazing. We should take that as a question at the end too.
Right. So there was. Do you want?
Yeah.
There was. Can you see the questions in the panel or not?
No, I might. Let me see if I can do this.
That's okay.
Oh,
I can
Yeah.
read them to. I can read them to you at the end. I just figured this might be a good portion to answer Brian's question about how you get your capital if you are earning less than 1% return.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let me clarify that. So yes, it is complicated. So what we do is we take all the costs in doing a project, including fees that might have to be paid for taxes, even a sales commission, even things like cost of capital. We bundle that all up into what we know is one big cost for us. Included in that cost is what we actually get, what the tiny part that we keep. So we then figure out what that costs, and we break that down into a monthly usage fee. But inside of sitting right next to the cost of the product, the cost of the labor, the actual cost, the hard cost of capital, whether that's 2% or 4%, any fees we have to pay to any government agencies, we add all that up. Included in that is our 80 basis points or 1%. And then we extrapolate that over the useful life of the product. And then we figure out what a monthly cost would be. So we do get a little something, but it is included in the monthly cost. I hope that helps.
Great.
So we are the exclusive provider of e-vehicles for the state of Hawaii. It started when Hawaii did an RFP about 2 years ago, and we won it. This is probably a lot of detail for you, but in last April, we delivered our first vehicles. And the way we did it, again, I'll send this to you so you don't have to memorize it here. But we did a customer needs analysis for them. They then chose us. There's the deputy director of highways right there at Sniffen. And we'll send you his actual video on why he chose SB, the Director of Transportation for the state. We started with aiming to replace vehicles over 7 years. And what it turned out is that they're spending about $300,000 per year for the first 42 vehicles when they didn't have $2.5 million in budget, and they're saving about $100,000 per year on maintenance and fuel. So it's actually costing them about $200,000 for 42 vehicles, and they pay on a monthly basis. And actually, the punchline on this is it turns out it's actually costing them about $1.30 per mile, and that's instead of charging them, to pay for vehicles or charging them a rental fee. They chose this metric of $1.30 per mile because that fits into how their financials are designed. So that was their choice. We can pick any kind of metric as long as we get what we need per month. So let's see. We're now also doing patrol fleet and shuttle buses for the Honolulu airport. I'm sorry I left this out, but when we're charging $1.30 per mile, what that includes is the vehicles, the charging stations, the rest of the infrastructure to hook up to the electric source, and it does include maintenance. So when you think of $1.30 per mile, and actually when Hawaii does, they consider that rate per mile to be something that they're actually very comfortable with. So I'm just going to breeze through because I do want to leave plenty of time for questions. But I'll breeze through some case studies. And again, this will all be in the kit that we send to you with this slide deck. So LSU, we've done a fiber optic broadband program for them. Point Loma University, a whole big program for lighting for them. And again, I'll go through these quickly. Big school district in Chicago area. Arizona State Prison, lighting there. Galveston, a whole series of lighting, and then soon HVAC. Here's a water meter project, Jackson, Mississippi. And this is not the tiny town, maybe I have one on that too, but here's an example of their water meter project. Here is Simsport. Here's the tiny one. This is 2,200 population, a small town, but we've actually been in their news. I think there was some award that we got from the mayor because he actually ended up they make money. They replace the water meters with us, and they're making money on this project now. So we end up helping them actually earn a profit. Crowley, we did fields, as you can see the picture there, turf. So, I think I've given you a lot to consider. Next steps, if we had them. And then, of course, I would say thank you. Thank you very much for that. I think I'll reduce this and go back to seeing myself and seeing everybody. So I'm open for questions. Tina, I leave it up to you. I'll answer any questions that I can.
So I would, and what we'll have you do is just, I think you probably have my email from the invite. If you want to send that to me, we have a Google folder that we kind of everything, and we can share it with the entire group. So if you want to send that to me, I'll get it over to Kayla and Bree to put in the folder.
Perfect. Yes.
So I had a question, and then there's a question in the comments. I noticed that the majority of your customers tend to be public entities. Is there any example of you having a relationship with a private company and doing the same thing?
Not so much. I think that's one thing I actually might say like that. So we say public entities, and I'll tell you there can be exceptions, because the effort is to work with durable entities. That's actually the financial term. And by that we mean, and I think, gosh, I think most of the folks on this call would qualify. Durable entity, we think of that as an entity that is based on serving some population, and where we know that over time they're not going to go away. And I think we'd love to entertain any inquiries to sort of address whether anyone on the call would qualify or not. But we will make an effort. We think we're optimistic they will.
Right. Okay. No, that's a great answer. I was just trying to make sure that I understood that. And then there's another question here in the panel. Is cost to customer based on actual ongoing cost to SP or SP's projections? If based on projections, who makes up the difference if the projections are below actual cost?
Yeah, there's
Ryan, you're killing these.
Yeah, so there's no projection involved. Here's what will be. We do a very strict analysis of all the cost it takes to build that project, and even if insurance is involved, we'll get actually the cost of that insurance. If there's maintenance involved, and we do support the projects with maintenance, we will get quotes from those suppliers, and we agree with the customer on the best provider of maintenance. And we don't keep, maintenance is not a profit center for us, so none of this, all we get is those 80 basis points. So there's nothing we find. If we get a rebate back, or there's we're not sharing energy savings, by the way. The customer always gets we're not keeping any of that. So we build the project, we analyze what monthly cost. We're not putting in a big fat gross profit on there. That's why I'm saying that we're cost plus. Everything we bring in, all we're getting is the 80 basis points. So we're not marking things up. And there's no projection. So again, whatever energy savings, we don't get in the middle of that. We know, in fact, a lot of people on this call or others, manufacturers can do a pretty good prediction, not us, but they provide pretty good predictions on energy savings, and all of those savings go to the customer. We don't get in the middle of that, because I don't know if Brian's inferring this, but because with shared savings, there are sometimes arguments about what the savings is going to be. And we learned long ago, we want the customer to keep that all. All we're getting is our fee that really reflects actual costs, hard costs. Oh yeah. So yeah, Lina was recommending something here. So something comes up a lot, especially in the last couple of years, that we have that you might have other sources of funding, and how do we work around those sources of funding, especially with the federal transportation funding and TIF funding and certain funds that have been allocated around COVID. So the good news is no matter what those funds are, we work around them. That's sort of the summary point. But the way that works depends on the kind of funding. In a lot of cases, what we'll do is we can sit beside other funding, or we can be, and I think Lonnie uses the term, we can be the donut hole. If there's one, for instance, if there's 20% that the entity has to come up with, we can be that 20%, as long as it's not forbidden by the grantor. We work around that. In some cases, we we become the primary supplier, and then that grant even might go to pay us down. And then what that means is then the monthly cost becomes much less. But we definitely, on a day-to-day basis, are working around those funding. So those things are good. Get all the free money you can, please. and we'll help you. We have people that can help you make sure that you use all that money.
Sure. I'm going to ask one question and then go to Brian. What do you, for having, you're familiar with working in Nevada and many of our entities here in Nevada. Are you seeing any opportunities that maybe are not being utilized for your partnership? Things that come to mind, like top of mind, we should be doing this or we should be doing that in Nevada from your experience from across the nation?
Very much so. And one thing I would say, I'll say this slightly subtly, there's a great big school district in the Las Vegas area. Well, there's only one, but we know that they're huge, and we have been working on plans with them now for almost 2 years, and they have a master plan. Again, none of this is secret or private. They have a master plan in the works, and I'm expecting, it hasn't been completed yet, but we're expecting to be some or part of that plan, just so you know. And that's the kind of district that has huge needs in almost every building. They have hundreds of school rooms. So, what do we? So, in the perfect world, we would be working with many more municipalities, school districts, other public entities, any districts of any kinds. And Lina, did you have a question? Oh, I thought someone raised.
I just had my hand raised to make a comment when you're done, Rick.
Okay, so virtually we would just be doing more. We're doing quite a lot. I mean, as nationally, SP has now got projects in the works of over $500 million. But we look at the state of Nevada, and I spent a lot of time there, with the school district and with a couple of others. We know that because this is different, that it takes more time for especially public entities to get their arms around it. And in some cases, it takes a little bit of an effort to say, oh my gosh, this could be better for us, maybe for these projects or those projects. So if anything, I'm eager and the team is eager to meet with every one of you on this call afterwards. In other words, please don't be shy and don't assume that we can or cannot do any particular project. I hope in the slide deck, I'll make sure to have the contact information, but please contact us and let me know, would this work, would that work? There was another question from Jessica. What we don't go after, I'm sorry, should I answer that one first?
I was just going to say Jessica, Lina, and then Brian.
Okay, well, with Jessica, we try not to turn down projects on size. On the small end, which is actually the more of a concern, our typical projects are usually $1 million or more. However, if there's a public entity out there that reaches out to us and wants to do something that's a few $100,000, that would probably be the bottom end. And the only reason it's that is because we actually set up a special purpose entity, an actual company for every single project. And there's a certain amount of process that we do, which ends up protecting the customer in the long term. So that's why we won't do a project for 30,000 or 80,000. On the high end, there's no limit on the high end in terms of dollars. And then things we don't do, we don't do walls and floors. In other words, we'll do everything in a building, like inside a building, including even doors, windows, roofs, elevators, everything that's inside a building. Although we won't build the walls and the floors of a building, inside utility scale, we'll do virtually everything from start to finish. And the other thing which is tangential here, is we don't operate facilities. So of course we leave that, and there's some companies that want to be operators. We are primarily your best way to get to substitute for capital requirements to get the project built and to make sure it's fresh and new forever.
Okay.
Who's next?
Line item, Brian, please.
I was just going to make a couple comments to the extent that it is helpful for my Nevada colleagues. I was introduced to this shortly after going out on my own after being a regulatory attorney for most of my career, and it was hard for me to wrap my mind around it at first because it's an offshoot of the ESCO process, and some of you may have gone down that road of attempting to get an ESCO, which was addressed in statute several years ago to allow basically the funding for level 3 audits on buildings in order to get it done, because that's so expensive. And what this does, it's not an ESCO, it is an accepted form of financing by the Department of Energy, and it allows for essentially a risk transfer to sustainability partners. So instead of the reason why you get a level 3 audit on an ESCO and why an ESCO won't do smaller projects is because they are funding the agency to own it. Here, that's not what's happening. SP takes on the entire risk of owning and maintaining and replacing that equipment. And so that whole step is not necessary. So we've seen projects, people be attracted to projects that ESCO companies are like, yeah, we're not even going to touch it because it's not enough for us to do. And it just makes it's a much more streamlined process. So, that's kind of my perspective from being introduced to this in Nevada, and, obviously SP's working nationwide, but it was an education, and I really think it's a neat way to go and to be able to leverage more for what you want to do, not just being confined as a municipality or a county or a state to a single project based on grant funding. You can leverage to get much more of your infrastructure needs done in a shorter period of time.
Brian, and then Rick, please. Oh, Rick, your hand is up. Do you want your hand up? Brian,
No.
Go ahead.
It sounds like a really interesting way of doing things. I guess my only question would be 0.8% is a pretty small margin. I mean, are you a B corporation, or
No.
how do you make your money?
Let me qualify that. So we make 80 basis points a year. If you calculate, that's about 1% a year. If you calculate 1% on $1 billion worth of projects that we accumulate, that's not chicken feed. In other words, it's pretty good money. So you don't have to worry about, we are trying to keep the amount low so it doesn't inflate. So we're less expensive than other methods. So we're not adding a margin. And we also sometimes, in the list of getting the project done, there might be certain project management, engineering functions that somebody's got to do, and we might actually do them and get that cost, but we're not marking it up. We might just pitch in and do something that where we earn an extra $100,000, but it's something that we would have had to call in a contractor and they would have charged the same or more than we're charging. So on every project, there's some of that. So we think we have that's a sufficient amount for us, but we also try to keep it so when people say, well, why do I need SP, or why do I keep them on the project? Because we're not really impacting the cost. In fact, even if it's 1% a year is what we cost, we think we save the customer between 3 and 6% in other ways. So in a way, again, we do aim to be the lowest cost of usage over time. We're not focusing on the first cost, which is what a lot of entities do. They go, oh my gosh, sorry to speak too much about it, Brian, but oh my gosh, you know, the project is $1 million. Let's see if we can get it done for 800,000. Well, in a lot of ways, not to be lecturing, that cheaper cost as a first cost will probably end up costing more over time because things break and you're buying the motor that fails. And so we staunchly support robust engineering. The main thing is and we'll project over 20 years, if that's the life of the project, we'll show the customer long before they actually sign up and do the project. We'll show them what those costs are per month. We'll even compare it to a bond and say, you know, let's say you were thinking of using a bond for something. Well, that you give us your numbers for the bond. We'll take your numbers and then we'll show you how we may spend a little bit more in the beginning, but we know that's going to end up being the wiser thing over time.
So, Rick, I have a question. I could see how this would be a hard sell to a public entity just because they have boards and stakeholders and taxpayers that they have to be accountable to. But I like the idea. And so when you approach these types of groups, what is your approach to them? Because that's something that this group is going to have to do, you know, to start getting some of our legislators and folks to think in the same way. So if you would let kind of speak to that a little bit.
So our approach, let me give a preamble for that. We currently have about a dozen state attorneys general who have signed off on our agreement and where we're doing business. We have several dozen cities, school districts, and states around the country. So yes, it is a more complicated sale, yet we're doing pretty well. But so the approach, we say, are there projects where capital, you know, big hunk of capital budget is keeping you from doing something where it's really important, or something's about to fail, or you're not going to get it done. We're not advocating to do things that are nominal or nice to have. We're saying let us do those. Let's say you have 6 boilers in that building, and you know that they're running to fail, and you don't know which one, but you know they're all 24 years old, and we know. I mean, any engineers in the group will say, you know, of those 6 over the next 3 or 4 years, more than half of them are going to fail. Oh, but you know, each of those boilers is $1 million, you know, just typically to replace. Well, that's $6 million. We don't have 6 million. Our group, you know, the group itself, the board and everyone and the legislature, we know that they're going to fail. So we say, you know what? Instead of running to fail, instead of spending $6 million all at once, let's look at a program that's more a service basis, and where you only have a much smaller cost per month. And let's try one project like this. In fact, let's go over our 10-page agreement and we'll show you how that is. In every case, we know we have to get board approval, and that takes a month or a year, depending on the group. We know we have to, sometimes legislation changes, but I think in Nevada, and Lina would be the expert, we're pretty in tune. We had to change, or they had to modify the legislation in the state of Hawaii, but they're very motivated because they're an especially eco-sensitive state there. But we know that Nevada's got tremendous legislation, and we've participated in that conversation. So we just take one project at a time and help each customer as we can.
That's perfect segue to Kayla's question on, have you worked with any anaerobic digestion projects?
Yeah, we haven't completed those agreements yet, but we're actually looking at several biodigesters, and even in Hawaii, we're working on an overall program where we can take landfill material, and we're actually in final stages of the contract, but we're taking landfill material, converting that to energy, and then using that to actually fund county energy systems. In Hawaii, that's what it would be.
That's interesting. Tom, you had your hand up.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just to say a quick rewind to your question on how to approach public entities. I took a look at a lot of the press that came out of the Hawaii Department of Transportation acquiring electric vehicles through this model. And there was initially kind of like the question as to, well, why do these state employees get to drive new Teslas and so forth? And the bottom line was, they're saving money. I mean, when you approach a public entity and say, look, your constituents are going to have a reduction in what it costs to operate a government entity, and that's a pretty cool message. The other opportunity that I would pitch is that you can accelerate drastically your climate or other goals that you want to accomplish. And State of Nevada and the municipalities and others that are on this call have pretty aggressive GHG reduction goals. One example in terms of the scale where SP can accelerate, Tom Kane, one of Rick's associates, presented testimony on SB 448 in this last legislative session with NV Energy and the move to provide $100 million worth of infrastructure to charge electric vehicles. SP has the resources to electrify public fleets, school buses. They've got $50 to $100 million where you could electrify transportation kind of en masse and match the good legislation that was passed this past session to get the charging infrastructure in place. So I think it's kind of it's really, as Rick described, you can work with the existing budgets, you can work with the federal financing that's coming down the pipeline, and there's some cool stuff that I just became aware of that I'll get to Tina, and if you'll send it out on some community development block grants for the municipalities for energy efficiency. But whatever resources are out there, SP could then take and be kind of that multiplier and accelerator to get just more done more quickly.
Can I say what Tom's saying even slightly more boldly and with a little bit of sarcasm, if you'll permit me? What
Tom, for us people who build roads, be bold.
Yeah, so here's the thing. You can say, we have this 5-year plan to convert to EVs. And then I would say, have you figured out what vehicles you want? Oh yeah, we know exactly what we want. I'd say, and you're going to spend 5 years or 8 years doing 10 cars or 20 cars a year. I go, well, so if you figure out what you want, if you take the cost of disposing of your old vehicles, you take the Hawaii model and the savings on maintenance and energy, and you take the monthly cost, well, you know what? It's not going to cost you more per month. This is the usage cost thing. If you, and we're not saying rush into picking the wrong vehicles or something you don't like, but also if you use your own money, you're going to be stuck with those vehicles. With SP, if 3 or 5 years down the road or even sooner, you decide that you want to switch to a different kind of vehicle, it's all, as I say, cost plus. So yeah, if you're going to go from a Yugo to a Rolls Royce, it's going to be more. But all things considered, it's going, we're going to be able to swap those vehicles out for you. But again, think of us more in the ease of dealing with Hertz rental car with your issues, not
Yeah.
the expensive rental car of today,
Yeah.
but versus the General Motors leasing, which is debt. So with us, you decide you want to return it earlier, you want to keep it longer, you want to swap for this one, for that one. It's just net cost. So if something costs more, it's going to cost a little bit more, a little less, depending on the vehicle.
That's really interesting that, and I know you what you call them, durable entities is your primary focus. But for me, being a company the size of Granite, I think about our fleet. And for our greenhouse gas emissions, our fleet, I believe, is about 40% of our green gas emissions for our company. That's a huge chunk, so that kind of comes to mind. But and that's totally random thought that I made you guys listen to. Sorry. But Lina also mentioned in the notes that you guys are looking at a wastewater project here in Northern Nevada that may include buying out more costly existing bond funding.
Yeah. We're just starting that conversation, so I don't want to speak too soon, but in a sense, I guess, and Rick, you'll correct me, I'm sure, but you could sort of look at that like a refinance where the existing infrastructure, you guys at NDEP know that I'm sure that there's going to be wastewater improvements that are going to be required with the forever chemicals. Sorry, I'm forgetting the PFAS and PFOS and all that stuff coming down the pike, right? So, and then there's these communities that are growing that need to upgrade if they get if their population grows to any degree. But meanwhile, you have a community that did those upgrades. They're going to need to do more sooner rather than later. But meanwhile, they're paying off $100 million worth of bonds. And so that makes it, you talk about trying to get past your county commission or your city council, and that's tough, right? So, so one possible option that we're going to attempt to explore is to maybe buy out, like refinance the bond obligation, and then add on the $5 million or $10 million worth of improvements that are needed for the facility.
Excellent.
And it would include the technology that we're looking at will be coming to NDEP soon because it's great. It's good cutting edge, technology to address waste in a sustainable and regenerative manner.
Right. Man, I love all these ideas. These are great. I will say, out of respect for time, we are just about at 3:00. So if people have to drop off, please do. So I totally understand. I had a slight agenda together, but it's not anything that we have to hit today. It was just some conversations that I've had with folks outside of here. And so basically what I'll do is refine those discussions into some better notes and moving forward. And if everybody wants to stay on, they can. If they want to log off, they can. Rick, you're welcome to listen with us if you want, but
well,
I do have to drop off because I have to go, Mom, but I am, Tom and I are Rick's boots on the ground here in Nevada, but you can reach out to any one of us or all three of us for further questions, and we'll have as many conversations as you'd like.
And I'll make sure on the slide deck to put Lina and Tom's contact information. It wasn't on the one. I'll modify it so that, if you like one of us better, that's okay.
And I will actually ask that if anybody's going to email stuff over, to please send it to Kayla, because if it comes to me, you may never see it again. I'll just be honest about that. But Lina, I will follow up with you because this discussion kind of skirted around a lot of the discussions we've had in our previous meetings and that I've had with a number of members personally about some of the options for our menu of options. And it's kind of skirting around the edges of that. And so I might want to pick your guys' brain offline a little bit, and so that I'm better prepared to address that in our next meeting fully. And I'll probably have Kayla and Susan on the call, and then I'll update the group separately so I don't have to hold you all for so long.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Bye,
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks so much. And please, if you have any questions, if you have any interest at all, don't hesitate to contact one of us. Thanks so much.
I think we've heard some interest, so you'll probably get some calls, and we greatly appreciate your time, and you're welcome to join us anytime.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Tom, thank you for linking us. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. And thank everyone. It's been a great conversation.
Perfect. Kayla, do you want to stay on, and anybody else who wants to? So I have a little agenda for the policy group if we had time. And then when I was clicking through my screens to try to help Rick, I deleted it. I didn't save it. So, but I just, we had identified our group objectives in the last meeting, and then kind of like refining that a little bit more. What was coming out of that was the business incentives that are available, attracting the right business. And I've been talking to some folks at GoEd about that, some of the things that they're doing for businesses. And a sidebar conversation that came around that was with, I'm going to botch her name right now, with Jessica Preston, sorry. Kind of about, like, when we think about the recycling and reuse kind of groups and the source reduction, all those groups, and the organics, that one of our major drawbacks is identifying a demand for the product that they can create and then attracting that business that can generate that. So that's like one of the avenues that came out that we could potentially talk to, GoEd and those folks who are attracting the right kind of businesses to do that. The reason we had that conversation is Jessica was following up on my question about why we're accepting everybody else's trash. And it was a super good discussion. So that kind of came up. And then the other thing that came up was the example of your digester barrier, that it's, it's the wrong kind of digester, but you're still trying to do good stuff. And now you are battling, whether it be regulations or funding. I wanted to try to find a way to drill down on that too. I'm not quite there yet because, like I said, the holidays kind of just, December was, we're just chalking that up to useless. But, and then the engagement part, I'm pretty confident on that section just because Susan's going to help us with that. So those were kind of like, let me see if I can share my screen here with you. Okay, now let me go to my tabs and see if I can get you to see my, here we go. Oh, this is the one I deleted. Okay. Can you see that? Okay. Can you see that? Okay, so these are just some of the notes that I was taking, and this is where we got, like, the business incentives. Are we attracting the right businesses, right, to support the initiatives that we're working on? And the sustainability partners thing sounds like, yes, we are. Now we need to link, and my discussions with, Susan had provided a handful of cool businesses that are coming, and I talked to, GoEd, and they were kind of, so now it's kind of like maybe engaging those folks so that they're on our radar to help with some of these potential solutions. And then again, this barrier piece was where we were talking about kind of what you ran into with the digester. And then here's the engagement piece for Susan, and then identifying end user markets so there's more of a demand for things. And the reason I kept that on there was the example that keeps coming back to me is like the composting, right? So you got all this great effort goes into composting, and they're having a hard time selling it because it's a little bit more expensive than if you go down to Home Depot and buy a bag of methyl ethyl killiol. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. So those are kind of the things I'm tracking and having conversations and trying to capture those conversations. So I was thinking maybe once I kind of pull all those together, we could have another offline call. But oh, the other thing that I didn't put on there that I just remembered seeing Wes's name was Wes and the gentleman from Las Vegas. Marco? Is Marco from Las Vegas? Is that correct? Okay. their discussion, that's what I deleted that I should have put on there. Their discussion on the municipal planning and how they're addressing sustainability and how we could tie into that. So those are kind of some avenues that I'm trying to kind of drill our objectives down to. And I just didn't know if we're kind of heading in the right direction in that regard. So that's kind of where it's basically the nutshell of the last handful of meetings that I'm trying to put together. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. Yes. So I have the kind of draft per se, your objectives that we've been talking about for the last little bit. So we can put these together with those and see how they mash up together to make sure everything is accompanied for and it's all set to go. So I can send them to you just to make sure that you have them.
I do.
And
I
we
have
can,
them open actually. So I got them right here. Oh, I got mine in here somewhere. So I have those. And then, and I didn't want to make like this big, extensive, exhaustive list because we still have working group stuff coming. But I feel like if I can refine some of this stuff off the objectives, that we'll have avenues for the working groups when their menu of options come down. So I was just kind of brainstorming over the break, and that's what I kind of came up with to kind of start. But I'm not positive at this point how to start down the path for each one of those. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? I'm struggling with my words today because it's Monday technically. But
that's okay. I struggle with my words just in general. So not one of my excelling grammar. I think I understand you. And, I think as honestly, as long as you just identify it, you don't have to solve it or have a solution, but even just identifying what needs to happen is huge.
Okay, so I think we're getting closer in that regard then, because these are the things that we've identified through all of our conversations that tie into our objectives right here. Yeah. So our objectives are basically to solve these things down here. So, okay. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I just wanted to make sure to check in and let you know that I was kind of throwing these things around and where I was at with them. So, but
okay. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, this was an interesting discussion today because it kind of made some links for me that aren't even related to the presentation, but just hearing people talk about some of the things that they were doing was really helpful. So, but anyway, what were we going to say? I'm sorry.
So just below in your menu of options section down below.
Okay.
In this Word document, are you saying that those are kind of quote unquote strategies for the objectives above, or are they in addition to?
I would say no, they are part of what's above, but it's like they were directions toward potential solutions of the objectives. Does that make sense? I don't think menu of options is the right word. So maybe action items, right? They're more action items is what they would be. So we're looking how to do these things in order to achieve our objectives up here that kind of got fleshed out of our previous meetings, if that makes any sense.
Yes. Okay.
I can send this to you. This was just my notes for today, so it didn't go totally sideways.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll just shoot it over to you.
Like kind of piece around what you're getting at. Okay.
And I think it's kind of cool because the discussion I had with GoEd about some of the businesses that are coming and with Susan about some of the businesses that were coming is really neat because they're on the private side of things. And this presentation, I presented the public angle. So there are options for people to start achieving some of the things that the working groups are looking at. So that was kind of a nice tie today. So I do appreciate that. And again, I don't want to overstep with my ideas, but I'm just trying to track what we keep the stuff that keeps coming up and not lose it, so that when we actually do get to a policy portion and policy recommendations, that it didn't all get lost. So you know how.
Yep. I know. Yeah, I've been like sidebar and having conversations with some other people and are saying like, this is a great way to fund things that I could be otherwise maybe not be able to fund. Within state whatever county level. So this is it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, very different.
Projects need funding or what's
Right?
priority. Yeah.
But the cool thing is so now we've just added another tool to the fund test, right? So
Yep.
we are actually chipping away. So that was really a neat presentation. No.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
good. Okay. Well, I don't want to keep you guys any longer, but I did want to say thank you for all you guys are doing and Happy New Year and all the fun stuff. But it was good to see everybody's faces. And I'm working on, I had access issues to the link you sent for updating for your presentation because, we're armored like Knox around here. So my IT's opening it for me today. So you should have that back shortly.
Okay. So was that a Canva link or what link were you having problems with?
Yeah, that was the link. Yeah.
Ah.
And it wasn't on your end. It was just my IT said that it's been associated with phishing scams before, so they blocked it. Not yours particularly, but that program.
No, I understand though. So I was going to send out 2 more links probably tomorrow morning to you guys just to kind of just reiterate what I've been saying the past couple emails, just so you have it in one spot.
Yeah.
But I'll find a different way to attach them so that way you won't have those problems.
Okay. Yeah. If not, I can just bug my IT. It just takes me a little bit to get it back.
Okay.
But anyway.
We have other ways to go about it.
Okay. I know we always find a workaround when they
download them as a PDF.
Yes. Yep, we find a way. So, okay, very good. Well, thank you guys so much, and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you as well. I'm sure we will chat soon.
Yes, ma'am. We'll talk to you guys soon. Talk to you later.
All right.